It began like any other quiet evening in the suburbs of Virginia. Emily Carter, a devoted wife and dedicated teacher, sat alone in her living room. The faint glow of a street lamp filtered through the curtains as she graded papers, the soft hum of her husband's voice in the next room breaking the stillness. Mark Carter, her husband of 6 years, claimed to be handling work calls late into the night. Emily didn't think much of it at first. It was a small inconvenience in their otherwise steady life. But little did she know, those hushed conversations would crack open the facade of her perfect marriage, exposing a labyrinth of lies that spanned continents. What Emily discovered wasn't just a betrayal of her trust. It was a revelation so dark, so layered in deceit, it would lead to a tragic and horrifying end. A second wife in another country, a love story built on lies, and a husband desperate to keep his secrets hidden. Before it was all over, blood would be spilled, and a community would be left to wonder how such evil could hide in plain sight. This is the story of Emily Carter, a woman who loved fiercely, trusted deeply, and paid the ultimate price for a truth she never asked to uncover. It's a tale of bigamy, betrayal, and murder, a chilling reminder that the person you think you know best might be hiding the most terrifying secrets. Emily Carter was the kind of woman everyone loved, a 34-year-old elementary school teacher with a heart for her students and a smile that could light up the room. Her friends often spoke of her warmth and generosity, and her colleagues admired her dedication. At home, she was equally devoted to her husband, Mark Carter. They met 7 years earlier at a charity event and quickly became inseparable. To anyone who saw them, they seemed like the perfect couple. Emily, the nurturing teacher, and Mark, the ambitious consultant whose job often took him across the globe. But as idyllic as their life appeared, there were cracks beneath the surface. Mark's frequent business trips, which initially seemed like a testament to his hard work, began to raise questions. Why was he so evasive about his schedules? Why did his phone buzz late into the night with messages he never discussed? Emily's closest friends noticed her growing unease, but she dismissed their concerns, unwilling to believe that the man she loved could betray her trust. The truth, however, was far darker than she could have imagined. Mark wasn't just hiding an affair. He had built an entirely separate life thousands of miles away. During one of his so-called business trips to Morocco, he had married another woman, Yasmin Ahmad. Unlike Emily, Yasmin knew little of Mark's life back in Virginia. To her, he was a single man building a future with her in the bustling city of Casablanca. This double life didn't remain hidden forever. As Emily stumbled upon suspicious emails and unexplained expenses, the threads of Mark's deception began to unravel. What followed was a sequence of events that would transform a betrayal of trust into a chilling act of violence. By the time the truth came to light, one woman would lose her life, and another would be left questioning everything she thought she knew. To understand the tragedy that would unfold, it's essential to delve into the lives of Emily and Mark Carter before their world unravels. Emily, an elementary school teacher, was beloved by her students and colleagues alike. Her classroom was always a safe and inspiring place, a reflection of her compassionate nature. Parents admired her ability to connect with children, often saying she had an almost magical way of making every child feel special. Outside of work, she was equally admired. Friends described her as loyal, kind, and the kind of person you could always count on. Emily's personal life appeared as harmonious as her professional one. She married Mark Carter at the age of 27 after a whirlwind romance that swept her off her feet. Mark, a traveling consultant for an international firm, was charismatic and ambitious. His quick wit and confident demeanor made him the life of every party. To Emily, he seemed like the perfect partner. Supportive, successful, and attentive, even if his career kept him away for long stretches of time. But as the years passed, subtle cracks began to form in the foundation of their marriage. It started with small things: unexplained charges on their joint credit card, vague explanations about travel delays, and phone calls that ended abruptly when Emily walked into the room. While she wanted to trust Mark, these inconsistencies nagged at the back of her mind. Over time, her once unshakable confidence in their relationship gave way to quiet suspicion. Friends began noticing subtle changes in Emily. At social gatherings, she seemed distracted, her usual bubbly personality muted. One close friend recalled a conversation where Emily mentioned finding receipts from places Mark claimed he'd never been. Another remembered her offhand comment about how Mark's work phone seemed busier than ever, with messages coming at all hours of the day and night. Yet, Emily brushed these concerns aside, blaming her doubts on overthinking or stress. Mark, for his part, played his role convincingly. When he was home, he showered Emily with affection and reassured her of his love. His charm made it difficult for Emily or anyone else to believe he could be hiding something so devastating. But behind his affable exterior, Mark was carefully managing a secret life, ensuring that Emily saw only what he wanted her to see. The early warning signs were there, but like so many people in love, Emily wanted to believe the best about her husband. She ignored the red flags, trusting that their relationship would weather whatever uncertainties had crept in. Tragically, this faith in her marriage would lead her down a path of heartbreak and, ultimately, unimaginable loss. The tipping point came on an ordinary Tuesday evening. Emily Carter, now accustomed to Mark's frequent absences, was sorting through a cluttered desk in their study when she stumbled upon something that would change everything. Among a pile of bills and business receipts, an open laptop caught her attention. Mark's email was still logged in. She hesitated for a moment, her heart pounding in her chest. Snooping wasn't in her nature, but something about the moment felt different, almost as if it were calling to her. When she clicked on the inbox, what she saw made her blood run cold. At first, the messages seemed like harmless correspondence, a few emails about work trips and hotel reservations. But buried deeper in the threads was an exchange that felt far more personal. There were references to wedding plans, intimate messages, and even photographs of a ceremony that had taken place in Morocco. The bride's name was Yasmin Ahmad, and the emails confirmed what Emily never thought possible. Mark wasn't just having an affair. He had married another woman. This wasn't a fleeting betrayal. It was a calculated deception spanning years. Emily's hands trembled as she stared at the screen, unable to look away. Each word felt like a dagger to her heart. She printed the emails, her mind racing with questions she didn't know how to answer. That night, when Mark returned home, she confronted him. The confrontation was explosive, filled with accusations, denials, and a torrent of emotions. Mark, caught off guard, tried to deflect, but Emily's evidence was irrefutable. He eventually admitted to the bigamy, claiming it was a mistake and begging for her forgiveness. But Emily wasn't interested in apologies. She wanted answers. Over the next few days, Emily began piecing together the fragments of Mark's double life. She discovered financial transfers to Yasmin, unexplained gaps in Mark's travel schedule, and even receipts for gifts she had never received. Determined to uncover the full extent of his lies, Emily hired a private investigator. The investigator, a seasoned professional, quickly uncovered more damning evidence. Mark had been leading a parallel life, maintaining the facade of a loving husband in Virginia while building a new future with Yasmin in Morocco. But before Emily could act on this newfound knowledge, tragedy struck. On a quiet Friday evening, neighbors reported hearing what sounded like an argument coming from the Carter residence. Hours later, Emily was found dead in her home. Initial reports suggested a break-in gone wrong. Drawers were pulled out and valuables appeared scattered. However, detectives quickly noticed inconsistencies. There were no signs of forced entry, and the scene felt staged. The case took a chilling turn when autopsy results revealed that Emily had died from blunt force trauma, not as a result of a burglary. As investigators began to dig deeper, the picture became more sinister. Mark's alibi was shaky at best, and evidence linking him to the crime began to surface. The man who had once promised to love and protect Emily was now the prime suspect in her murder. The investigation into Emily Carter's murder began with more questions than answers. Detectives arrived at the scene to find a house in disarray, drawers pulled open, personal items scattered, and a broken window that appeared to be the point of entry. But something felt off. The break-in looked staged, almost too deliberate. A thorough search revealed that valuable items, including Emily's jewelry, remained untouched. It wasn't a robbery gone wrong. It was something far more sinister. The first breakthrough came from Emily's financial records. Investigators uncovered a series of international wire transfers from Mark Carter to an account in Morocco. The recipient? Yasmin Ahmad. The timing of the transfers coincided suspiciously with Mark's frequent trips abroad, further cementing the connection between his double life and the crime. When detectives brought Mark in for questioning, his demeanor was calm, almost too composed. He claimed to have been out of town at the time of Emily's murder, attending a work conference. But as investigators scrutinized his alibi, cracks began to appear. Hotel security footage revealed that while Mark had checked in, he was absent for several crucial hours on the night of the murder. Witness statements also contradicted his claims. A neighbor reported seeing Mark's car parked outside the house late that evening, though Mark had insisted he was miles away. As detectives pieced together the evidence, a chilling theory emerged. Mark hadn't just lied about his whereabouts. He had meticulously planned Emily's murder to silence her. Phone records further implicated Mark. On the night of the murder, he had made a series of calls to Yasmin in Morocco, conversations that investigators believed were about coordinating his next steps. The tone of these calls, though partially redacted in transcripts, hinted at his growing desperation to keep his secrets buried. Forensic evidence added another layer to the case. Traces of Mark's DNA were found on the object believed to be the murder weapon, a fireplace poker that had been hastily wiped clean but still bore crucial evidence. As the case against Mark solidified, experts weighed in on his motivations. Dr. Sarah Holden, a criminologist specializing in domestic crimes, explained, Mark Carter's actions reflect a classic pattern of narcissistic behavior. His double life was carefully constructed to serve his needs, and when it was threatened, he reacted in the most extreme way possible. The murder wasn't just about silencing Emily. It was about preserving his image and control over both his lives. When Mark was arrested, news of the case sent shockwaves to the quiet Virginia community. Neighbors who had once admired the Carters' seemingly perfect marriage struggled to reconcile the man they thought they knew with the cold-blooded killer now in handcuffs. For Emily's friends and family, the arrest was a bittersweet moment, a step toward justice, though nothing could bring her back. After months of investigation and mounting evidence, the case of Emily Carter's murder reached its most pivotal moment, the trial. As the court convened, the courtroom was filled with tension. The prosecutor, backed by a mountain of damning evidence, began laying out Mark Carter's motive for murder. The financial transfers, the inconsistent alibi, and the chilling phone calls were all tied together to paint a clear picture of premeditation. Emily had been killed not just to silence her, but to maintain control over his life and avoid the inevitable consequences of his bigamy. The prosecution didn't shy away from detailing the disturbing lengths Mark went to cover his tracks. They presented forensic evidence, showing how Mark had deliberately wiped his fingerprints from the murder weapon. They revealed how he'd staged the crime scene to look like a botched robbery, and how he had attempted to mislead investigators by offering up a fabricated alibi. The psychological profile of Mark painted him as someone who believed he was above the law, someone willing to do whatever it took to protect his double life. Throughout the trial, emotional testimonies from Emily's family broke the courtroom's cold, clinical atmosphere. Her mother, a frail woman who had always hoped for the best in Mark, broke down on the stand, recalling the day she had given her daughter away at the wedding. Her voice quivered as she spoke about how Emily had trusted Mark, loved him unconditionally, and had no idea her marriage was based on betrayal. Emily's best friend, Sarah, recalled the long phone conversation she had with Emily before her death, how she could hear the hurt and confusion in her voice as she uncovered Mark's lies. Mark's defense tried to argue that the murder was an accident, an argument that suggested Emily's death had been the result of a heated argument that spiraled out of control. But the jury wasn't convinced. The evidence didn't support it. The defense painted Mark as a man under stress, trying to maintain two lives. But the prosecutor had already proven that his actions were deliberate, methodical, and cold-blooded. The trial became a spectacle of courtroom drama, with Mark's cold demeanor standing in stark contrast to the tearful emotional displays of Emily's family. As the prosecution's case closed, the defense could only do so much to defend Mark's actions. The verdict, when it came, was swift. Mark Carter was convicted of first-degree murder, and the judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom erupted into a mixture of relief and sorrow. Emily's family had fought for justice, but it would never undo the devastation they had endured. But even as Mark was led away in handcuffs, unanswered questions lingered. Has Yasmin, his second wife, known about Emily? Was she complicit in the deception, or had she been a pawn in Mark's grand plan? Her silence throughout the trial only deepened the mystery surrounding the case. Did she truly love him, or was she simply another victim of his manipulation? While Mark's conviction brought some closure, the haunting uncertainty about Yasmin's role remained. As the years passed, new theories emerged. Some speculated that Mark had used his second marriage as leverage in case his first wife ever found out, while others suggested that Yasmin had been unaware of Emily's existence. The truth, it seemed, would remain hidden behind a wall of silence. As we close this tragic chapter in the story of Emily Carter, it's impossible not to reflect on the hidden dangers that lurk beneath the surface of seemingly normal lives. Mark Carter's betrayal wasn't just a betrayal of his wife, but of the very trust that keeps relationships intact. He built a life on lies, manipulating everyone around him, including the woman who thought she was a second chance. What happened here wasn't just about murder. It was about power, deception, and the lengths one person would go to maintain control over their double life. The question remains, what truly motivated Mark? Was it greed? The desire to hold on to his financial stability while balancing two families? Was it fear of being exposed for his deceit, or was it the deep need for control? Control over his relationships, his image, and the narrative of his life? Each layer of this case reveals a man so caught in his own web of lies that he felt no choice but to take the life of the woman who once trusted him. But could he have stopped at any point before the murder? Could he have told the truth, lived honestly? Or was he too far gone? For Emily's family and friends, the trial and conviction of Mark Carter brought justice, but it didn't bring her back. The hole left by her absence would never be filled, and the pain of knowing that a person so close to her heart had betrayed her in the most unimaginable way would never truly fade. The ripple effects of Mark's actions continue to haunt those who loved Emily, and they stand as a stark reminder of how deception can destroy lives. But Emily's story, while tragic, also serves as a warning, a reminder of the dangers that can hide behind closed doors and the importance of recognizing the signs of deceit before it's too late. If there's one thing to take away from this case, it's the importance of honesty, transparency, and recognizing when a situation has gone too far. If you or someone you know finds themselves in a similar situation, trapped in a cycle of deception or emotional manipulation, remember that there are resources available to help. No one should feel alone in such a crisis, and it's never too late to seek support. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What do you think motivated Mark the most? Was it greed, fear, or the need for control? Drop your theories in the comments below. We've heard from so many of you already, and I love seeing how the pieces of these complex cases fit together in the minds of viewers like you. Was there something in the investigation that stood out to you? Let me know.